Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Adrift. A survival film about floating adrift in the ocean amongst your wrecked sailboat, starring Shailene Woodley and Sam Claflin. I wasn't necessarily excited per se to see this film, but I was definitely intrigued. I thought the trailers looked good enough, and it seemed like a premise with lots of promise. I love me a good survival story, so I was definitely on board. Ultimately, I think that the film is a bit afloat. It's not bad per se, but it's not good per se. So let's go ahead and talk about the positives first. Well, Shailene Woodley, I think, was very strong in the film. She's a really good crier. What can you say? She cries and she screams a lot in this movie, but it's very convincing, and I think she gets the delusion states down well, she gets the agony states down well, the sorrow states. You can see realization in her face. She has the romance down, and on that note, I think her and Sam Claflin have a very nice chemistry together. So the acting is strong. I also know that Shailene Woodley was a producer for the film, so good on you for helping create a role for yourself. And I think this was definitely a role that she could do a lot with, and I can see the appeal here. But for her work as an actress, I think she did a very good job. I also think that the sound design in this film all around was very, very good. The creation of the cackling and the pounding, even these weird hollow whistle tones of the waves while we're out there and the boat is hitting that water, they were all spectacular. So everything to do with, especially the sound editing, was fantastic. And there's a narrative twist within the film that I think worked pretty well. I think it disguises itself well enough throughout the rest of the film, and when it does come to light, it is a nice coming to light moment, and one that felt organic to what it was we were watching. And of course, this is based on a real event. These are based on real people and their real life story, so of course the story already is miraculous. It's an amazing story in and of itself, as most extreme survival stories are. But that will now take us into our negatives. So the narrative structure of the film is not linear. We are bouncing back and forth between wreckage and our two leads on this just floating ship after the big storm, and then it bounces us back to before the storm. And while I commend them for trying something different and trying to add in some flair, so you're not just literally on a ship with two people for a vast amount of time in one setting, I think it undercut everything, unfortunately. One, we didn't get enough time with this couple to really develop the relationship and the love story we needed to develop. Cutting back and forth as we did, it was just too disjointed. We didn't get actual moments. We didn't get real moments. It was kind of just the highlight reel throughout the film. And I think that really undercut a lot of the emotion that was intended, especially once we get to the wreckage point. As a survival movie, it was pretty weak, I'd say. I think that this film actually is trying to be a romance and trying to be a love story with a survival setting. The relationship between our two main characters is actually the primary focus here. And all of this sailing stuff is just dressing. So it leaves it all feeling kind of hollow as we don't get that relationship development that I think it needed. And honestly, there was a good portion of this film where I was quite bored because not a lot is happening. There's not a lot of forward movement. There's not a lot of organic relationship building. It dragged pretty heavily through the middle. And then the end comes in so ham-fisted. It's like a huge club to just smack you over the head with all of the emotions and all of the feels that you're supposed to have. And again, I think it could have been done well, and it could have been a really impactful moment, but I think it's just too on the nose, and it's too forceful in its delivery, so it forces you to feel the emotion. Whether or not you actually arrive to that yourself is a different story. Plus, I think the script is actually a hot mess. When you listen to this dialogue in particular, I think every single cliche known to a screenwriter was thrown into this film, and I just literally was rolling my eyes several points throughout the movie because they threw in all of the cliches. All of the love story cliches, all of the dialogue cliches. I mean, it's all present. And when we get to that direction style, very little of it looked beautiful, especially for a film set on the ocean, or we go to these different islands at points. There's not enough beautiful to really sustain it. Instead, we get a lot of like close-up shots. We get like these half in the water, half over water shots on like beaches that I think were supposed to look a whole lot more artistic than they do. However, it kind of just feels like a handheld camera. It didn't read as high scale and art as I think they were going for. And instead, a lot of this movie, you're just looking at it like, oh gosh, this feels very claustrophobic. This feels very cheap. So overall, I'm not really the target audience for this film. And in many ways, actually, it reminds me of The Mountain Between Us from last year, in which you go in thinking you're getting a survival film. Instead, you're being spoon-fed a romance that may or may not really work. I will say the others in the theater seemed to find it more impactful than I did, so I think there is definitely an audience out there who is going to really enjoy this movie and really come out of it glad that they watched it. For my personal ranking, I'd give this a rental. I don't think it's a complete disaster, but it's definitely not a good film. It's a rental's worth. So, that is my review of Adrift. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below, and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Adrift? And what is your favorite wrecked at sea film? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!